What's up, guys? Welcome to Podcast 412, Fight for Purity. A bold way of looking at challenges that young people are facing. We'll talk about the naked truth of life and how to handle the problems you're thinking but not talking about. So strap in, get ready for another great podcast.
Hey, what's up? We are on episode 10, and we are going to be talking about, I guess, trust and stuff. And so Teresa is going to give us a fun fact about something.
You guys gotta trust me on this. So men have larger hearts and larger lungs than women, and women have larger livers, stomach, thyroid glands, and kidneys than men. So that's a fun fact to know. So that's
why
why
the stomach
men,
low?
Yeah.
Where do they see the stomach?
They have bigger stomachs.
Yeah.
Oh, they have bigger stomachs?
Yeah. Women have larger stomachs.
We have bigger
Oh,
stomachs.
we
We
have
have bigger
We have
Yeah.
bigger
So
stomachs.
women have larger stomachs, thyroid glands, kidneys,
Oh, okay.
and livers.
And the men have larger hearts and larger lungs, which is
Just to
why they
pump
run
up blood.
faster.
Yeah.
They got more
They got all
breath
that-
to tell all
yeah.
those lies.
That's why they can blow up all those balloons. And I run out of breath so fast.
Okay. So I'm going to share something. It's not a fun fact, but it's a fact. Well, it's a research. It says that in 2022 study, the Pew Research Center found that teens' smartphone access increased from 71% in 2014 to 95% today. So unsurprisingly, 35% of teens use at least one of the top 5 social media platforms almost constantly. So, and I think that's probably a good place to start as far as how you build trust, like on social media, or how you do build trust, like just among ourselves. I think one of the things that I've kind of been listening to, like I've been listening to some podcasts and stuff, and they talked about how young people trust sometimes so easily, sometimes on social media. And I know we kind of mentioned it a little bit about how you seem like more aggressive, I guess, and more, I don't know why, but you seem more trusting when you're on social media. But, and then, you know, supposedly you have like 100 friends. But I think one of the things that we mentioned too was that, you know, you don't really have 100 friends. You have 100 people that, I guess, you know, that interact with you, that communicate with you, that talk to you. So, but I know Sarah was mentioning, I'm gonna let her start a little bit. But we were talking about how do you make friends that you can trust? Like, where does it start? Like in school, in middle school, high school. How do you make, because that's a big thing right now, you know, because it's so easy to just like, you know, I mean, I think you just click a button, you friend somebody.
Yeah.
You click a button and you know, and then they're your friends, you know. It's like it takes them 1 second and supposedly they're your friends.
You met all these people, but you don't talk to them.
Yeah, or you do, but I mean, you know, you whatever it is that you guys do to build that relationship. So.
Yeah. So I mean, like on social media, obviously, it's very easy to make friends, you know. But I think like when you're in school and everything, like with people face to face, really your friends are the people who are like sitting next to you in class, whether it's by your choice or the teacher's choice, you know. And then I think just as time goes on, you become friends with those people because you can carry on a conversation. There's not like a big, you know, test where you're like, do they do this? Do they do that? Do they, you know, before you start talking to them, you're just kind of like, hey, I'm new here, you're new here. Let's be friends, you know. And I think as you get older, not older, but as the year goes on, your school year goes on, you know, you decide whether or not you actually want to stay friends with the people you're sitting around with, or if you want to switch it up. But I think, like, it's hard, I guess, to figure out who to trust. Because a lot of times, I think what happens is, like, you find out that there's people you can't trust, like, the hard way. Because somehow or another, you know, they betrayed your trust, you know. Because there's always those people you hear about in school where you're like, I can't tell this person anything because then everybody's going to know. Or the one person I don't want to know is going to know exactly what I said, you know. And so as a kid, we have to, like, figure out, okay, this is a person I can't tell anything to. This is a person I can tell some things to. This is a person I can tell everything to, you know, and because it's important, I think, especially as a kid, to have people that you trust, you know, but it shouldn't, we've said this in previous like episodes, like it shouldn't all be online or all in social media, because we talked about having difficult conversations in the last episode and about how it should usually be done face to face, but you can't have conversations like that unless you have a relationship, and you can't build a relationship unless there's trust. So I don't know how to like build that, I guess.
Well, I know I had a friend when I was in school, and supposedly we were like best friends. And then I don't know what happened, but one day she wanted to fight me. And then all of a sudden I was like, what? And she's all like, yeah. She goes, and I don't know what happened. To this day, I don't know what I did. But supposedly we were like best friends, you know. And then one day she's decided that she wanted to, you know, we did end up fighting later on, you know, months later or whatever. But I have no idea, no, and but it kind of shows you how, like what you're talking about, like you don't know sometimes, you just don't know. Like, I mean, at least she had the courage to tell me, you know. She didn't say we're not friends anymore. She just pretty much, you know, we're gonna fight because I don't like you anymore. So like, well, I think she came up to me and told me, I heard that you were talking about me. I was all like, to who?
You're my friend.
You're
the only one I talked to.
You were supposed to be like best friends, so I never figured that one out. She just became my enemy after that. Just like, you know, flip.
Yeah. I mean, and then just emotions. Everyone's emotions are everywhere. Because I don't know. That reminds me when I was in high school. I had, you know, there was like 4 different PE classes. And so some of them were older kids, like weight training or whatever. And we had to do these tasks. And one of the guys was asking me about what we were supposed to be doing. And this girl that was supposedly my friend, we weren't like best friends, but we hung out a lot and stuff. She assumed that I liked him and that, you know, I was trying to get with him and stuff because he was asking me a question about the class. And then she wanted to fight me after that too. You know, I think so. Relationships could just be finicky, you know, but it's just,
Yeah, because I remember being at work. And I had told Teresa about this because I was like, I don't understand what happened. Like, so there was this girl, she like liked one of the cooks in there, and like he wasn't, to me at least, wasn't anything to look at. It was just like whatever, you know. And one day he like walked out my food and placed it in front of me and was just like, here you go. We're all sitting in the break room, and she looks at her friend and she was like, how dare he? And I was like, he's just bringing me food. Like, what is that? But like, she already had like created a like something, and like I had invited her to church. She like actually went through like one of the haunted houses one year, and all of a sudden just the snap of a finger, I was just like,
her man.
I was like, I don't want him. He's like 10. What do you mean?
so it's just trust issues.
Yeah, but it just kind of shows you kind of your maturity level, I guess, sometimes at that stage in your life, like when you're in middle school, high school, you know, friends, it can be a roller coaster sometimes, you know. You know, one, you know, like, you know, they'll be friends with you in elementary, and then you go, and then maybe early in middle school, and then somewhere between, you know, 7th and 8th grade, you're not cool enough anymore, you know, or whatever, you know, and it's, but you still have, like you said, you still have to learn even through that to pick or
good friends
or who you're gonna allow, like.
And I think sometimes friends that you've had, like, because elementary, like if you stay in the same elementary school, it seems like you kind of have the same friends every year, and when you go into like middle school and stuff, you have multiple classes, you meet different people, so sometimes friends that you've grown up with all those years, like they start deciding who they are too, you know, as you're trying to navigate and decide who you are. You know, they are also, so that doesn't mean that you're always going to keep the same friends that you've always had, because sometimes relationships grow apart and you have to decide, like, are they good for me? Is this relationship good for me? Am I good for them? You know, in this relationship too, because I mean, we all go through changes, and it's such a important time in your lives, because you go into like high school, your early teen years of deciding who you are and who you want to be, and how we were talking about last time of like the jocks and stuff, and like, you know, like that's who you really are, what's coming out of you and how you interact. So
because your friends kind of help shape who you are, like if they have the same values that you do or not, you know. And then sometimes, like you said, sometimes you don't have like a big array of friends to pick from. You know, it just depends on like
You and your personality.
your personality.
Yeah, and I think too, like one of the good ways maybe to try and figure out if they're a good friend. One of our past episodes, I think one of the Art of Conversations, we had that list of things you shouldn't be talking about in a conversation, and I was like, there goes all my conversation topics, you know? Like, you know, you can't be like always negative, you can't be making excuses, you can't be like talking like crap about everybody, you can't be gossiping and all of that. So I guess like just thinking about how if the people you're hanging out with are always talking about everybody else around you, and but pretending to be nice to them later on, then they're probably doing the same thing to you when you're not around. So those aren't the kind of people that you want to be around with. Like they're not the kind of friends you want. People who are always going to talk trash or who are always going to make excuses for their behavior. You know, when they're treating you badly or when they're treating somebody else badly, who's going to make excuses for that. So you don't want to be friends with people like that because there's always going to be issues and drama and problems.
Yeah. And there's people that's all they do. They sit, and pretty much the center of their conversation is just about this person, about that person, or how that person is this way, and that person is dressing this way, and that person talks. If that's all, like you said, if that's all your conversation is, then it's really not a conversation. You're just gossiping about people.
And it's not somebody you can trust, because if
yeah.
they're going to talk about everybody else, they're going to talk about you, and you can't trust them. And that's good friendships have trust, where you know you can tell them something and they're not going to go and tell 10 other people.
Because you're not really building a foundation with
No.
a friendship if you're just talking about people or talking negative or, you know, so that's my thought on that, which is good. But I guess so, okay, so online, right? You know, building relationships online. I think sometimes we kind of do that blindly. I think even as you get older, you can do that if you're not cautious, you know, and I guess, how do I put it? I don't know. I guess my friend. So like, even before, you know, when it was just MySpace, you know, I'm showing my age, but when it was just MySpace and dial-up, you know, even then, yeah, like I'm showing my age here. But even then, like, sometimes we can be careless with the internet. And so, and how we build personas and stuff of who we are online, even for ourselves, to be cautious, you know, because sometimes, I don't know how to put it, like, we can build up a wall for ourselves too of who we are online, and you know, like who we
pretend,
trust, like pretend, and other people could be pretending too. Maybe you're not, but other people can pretend to care on there. And you know, there's always those stories of I've seen like reports and stuff and videos of parents who have like kind of catfished their own kids. They've like catfished their own, they've catfished kind of their own kids, and seeing if they would make decisions to talk to a stranger, you know. And some of the people, they didn't know who they were really talking to on there, and they, you know, entrusted these people, and they were willing to meet up with them, open the door to their house for them, you know. And it happened to be their parents, luckily. And there's also been videos of like kids that are meeting up with people, and it's like a guy, and he says, he asked the parents' permission first, like, can I see if your kids will come with me? And they do like a whole, I guess, investigation to see if their kids will meet up with them. And they do. They trust them blindly online, not really knowing anything, you know, and give information away. And we can build friendships on there that aren't truly genuine. You know, like, you have to be face to face and vulnerable. You know, you're vulnerable in person. I know you've talked about that too.
And I think sometimes we assume that because we're being truthful online, the people we're interacting with are also being truthful. But that's not the case. Like you said, we can put whatever we want online. You know, I can go online, make me a profile on Instagram that says like I'm 17, you know, and I still go to high school, which is far from the truth. Okay. You know, but so like you can kind of make up anything, you know. So it's not just, you know, we're not being all anti, you know, internet, anti-social, don't get on the internet kind of thing. We're just saying like be careful with who you're interacting with when you're online, because there's no telling if there's lies. And it doesn't mean, especially like when we say like online and everything, that doesn't just mean like social media, it means texting too, through social media as well.
Texting, and even if it's with somebody that you know in person, because I know like, because I'm guilty of it too. Like, for some reason with texting, you're willing to tell stuff to that person that you wouldn't have told them in person, because there's that you're not in person. There's like you were saying, there's not that vulnerability, especially the later it gets in the day. At night, all of a sudden,
The darker it gets.
all of a sudden, you're willing to talk about all this stuff that cross those boundaries that you never would have crossed before. But because it's at night and it's on the phone and in your mind, I guess, private, quote unquote private, or in confidence, then you're willing to talk about it. But that's not the truth, because those texts, you can't take them back. You're gonna see them in the morning, because there's been times where I see them in the morning, I'm like, why did I say that?
That was so, yeah, even like the heat of the moment, you know, you're like texting in the heat of the moment, because you're not really thinking, you're just in the moment.
Yeah,
You're not emotional.
And you're like, how embarrassing. Just kidding.
Yeah, and like that's not how you need to, like, that's not building trust necessarily. Like, you're being trusting, I guess, by sharing and being vulnerable with this other person, but that doesn't mean they're gonna like do the same with you.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they're gonna respect that. Yeah. They might just see it as an in. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, she opened that door, so let's,
Start talking.
It's almost like that whole boundary thing. Yeah. I can push it a little bit more.
Yeah, girl or guy, it doesn't matter, because anyone can take advantage of the things that you're telling them. A guy can be like a jerk about it and share it with his friends, the things that you told just to him, or a girl can be a jerk about it and be like, oh,
yeah, if they're upset,
and go send it to, like, guess what so and so said about you. Or
sometimes they screenshot that conversation and put it in
like,
a group
I have
chat.
receipts. I have receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just even being aware that there are really predators. Like, it's not just, you might think you're talking to another 17 or another 20-year-old, but you're probably could be talking to a predator, and you have no idea, but because you don't see who they are. Everybody puts their best foot forward, even on social media.
Well, even online gaming.
I feel like you never really truly know someone's true intentions online.
Yeah, because in person you can't really hide all that. Online, you can be a master liar.
I think that's what it is that online you're just so bold, and that's why we say, like I'm guilty of being quote unquote bold over text, and I'm saying things because you're not vulnerable. You don't see them face to face. You don't get to see their reaction right away, or have to face the consequence right away. You might have to face it the next day when you actually see them in person. But all of a sudden you're bold. I think more than trusting, you're just bold.
Bolder, yeah.
You're bold, and you're willing to say stuff that you're not normally willing to say in person. And that's why you shouldn't do it. Because that's not who you are.
Yeah.
If you can't do it in person, then don't do it over text.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people do get aggressive like that over a text or Facebook or whatever, because it's easy to just, like you said, to just be bold, but yet you wouldn't do it. And then you see them the next day and they're like, like if
they never said it.
Yeah, they never said it.
It's like somehow like what you say over your texts and your like interactions, it doesn't count when you see them in person. Like it doesn't count anymore. It's not real.
Yeah, but it does. And even like in your purity of like relationship wise, like if you're talking to someone of the opposite sex or whatever, like you be more bold to say stuff on the phone that you wouldn't in person, which you can't take back, and you start building relationships and opening up yourself to that maybe you wouldn't have before. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's very true. All of a sudden they start saying stuff, they're all flirtatious, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're like, bro, you're not like that in person. Like where did this confidence come from?
Yeah. And like I said, there they go. They're pushing that boundary, They're just pushing it. Oh, you're pretty. Oh, you're this. But then it starts to get more detailed.
Well, then you have those to look back at, like,
or you don't have it to look back at, because on Snapchat and all that, it just quote unquote disappears, but
it doesn't really.
Not really.
Nothing disappears.
Everything's forever.
Everybody says that. Yeah. It disappears. It does not. Screenshots for one, like you said, but for like security reasons, everything that disappears after 24 hours, it's still stored somewhere.
In the cloud.
Exactly. It's stored somewhere just for security purposes. So all the videos and the pictures and the things you say that are private, they're really not.
Yeah. You gave up your privacy.
As soon as you
Pretty
say I
much.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those terms and conditions that nobody reads.
Exactly.
I agree.
Go to the bottom. You can know my social security, my bank balance. It's okay.
It's that whole trust thing again. We just automatically trust when it comes to online, like to a certain degree. But then we're also still like so untrusting online too, because like of how like I guess we'll have to talk about it next time.
You don't feel great.
Yeah, like there's like it's like two-sided. Like we're trusting, we're wanting to share all the gold, but there's also that other side where we're so untrusting because we know it's out there and we know that we can find every little thing about somebody else online too. So I guess we'll have to go back to that next time. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Join us for our next podcast. You can contact us through Instagram at podcast412 or email us at 412fight@gmail.com. See you next time.